Hey guys, how's it going? VaulSC here. We're going to take a look at a game of infiNity between the Imperial Service and Varuna. So, classic good versus evil, or evil versus evil, or whoever versus whoever. But we're going to be playing on highly classified, which is a bit of a mission that I've never really been a big fan of. Thing about classified objectives is that they are random. We're already playing a game that includes so many variables and has so much variance in terms of what can happen. You don't need yet another variable on top of that, another element of randomness, determining your games for you. If you want to know more about this topic, there's a video on my channel about classified cards, and that was before they got updated, but the same principles are still there. Anyway, it is what it is, and there's going to be some sort of little tournament soon, which my friend's going to be going to. I'm not going myself, but he's going to be going to it potentially, and they will have to play this mission, so we're practicing it. So, without further ado, let's go and have a look at the army lists that are going to be featured in this one. So my list for today will be the Cien Warrior Lieutenant, even though I have no chain of command and even though he's going to be fighting, which sounds kind of ridiculous, but the thing is, because this is one of the only sort of models in the list with some real teeth in terms of shooting, you're going to want to be really careful with him anyway. He's unlikely to lose any face-to-face rolls, and you can revive him with your soft attack if that happens. So, you know, so long as you play well, you play carefully, he can work in that context. You kind of have to be a little bit lucky sometimes, know what you're doing, position him well, and yeah, try and avoid assassination. But yeah, it's maybe not the best choice all of the time. He's going in the Haris team, so the obvious ones there are obviously the Haris guy who has to be in there, and the Fort Observer, just so you've got a specialist along with him. I like that Fort Observer especially because he's quite good at completing some of the classifieds, right? And especially being in a link team to be able to do that. Okay, obvious 8 Guangxi and 2 control devices, you want to have them in there. Sophitect, an absolute must for highly classified. I mean, she's the doctor and the engineer, so if she dies, you're in trouble because there's a lot of objectives you can't complete. Ninja Hacker obviously is actually the only hacker in the army. It might actually be well advised to take multiple hackers to complete this one, but the Ninja is relatively safe because he's unlikely to die before you are ready to play that card. Canren, now the one weakness of this list is that the Canren could very easily be another specialist. So you have another Fort Observer out there or another hacker out there, which is probably better. I've decided to run the Mad Traps guy just because you may deny some area, especially around your HVT, make it harder for them to get there with all the orders they need to spend on that. But also, it helps you to prevent your lieutenant from getting assassinated, because my opponent's going to know that I've absolutely got a Cien lieutenant, and if I'm going second against Hakislam or something with really good assassination potential, the Canren can come back, lay the mad traps down for any Daylami that might be infiltrating, and use Holo Projector level 2 to be, 3 Cien Warriors, so he can't really spot the real one straight away. So this is my reasoning for taking the Canren. The mad traps really are good defensively. Do I really love this list? Not particularly, and I don't really feel like it's my best effort for highly classified. But it is a pretty good anti-Varuna list because the Cien Lieutenant HMG in that Harris Link team can actually beat the Kamau multi-sniper in the Link team. So that's that. And for clearing out Helots and stuff, nobody's going to be able to do that better. He's going to have the smoke there. He's going to be in the smoke, 5 dice on 14s. And the Helot, even with Neurocynetics, is just going to die. He's very unlikely to get any damage on a Cien Warrior in that context. My opponent, running Varuna Immediate Reaction Division, I love it how he sent me his little list after the game, and he's called the list Redacted. I think that's really quite a cute touch. So the obvious Kamau MSV2 in the Link team, the backup Fusiliers, he's got the decoy and the real one, a Fort Observing Fusilier and the hacker, everything you want in the Link team. Notably, there's no Orc in the Link team, but he's opted to go with Patsy Garnet to be in the Haris with the Machinist and the Kamau. This is a pretty nice little one because for this scenario, Patsy's actually a Fort Observer, and she's quite tough, so not a bad choice for completing objectives. Machinist quite nice as well, being the engineer for those functions, and with mimetism is better at surviving. And of course the secondary Kamau out there to do the midfield shooting was great. He's going for the Helots, and he's taken 2 light rocket launchers, but I respect the choice to experiment with the shock marksman rifle, and I think this is not a bad idea because you are giving yourself an opportunity where maybe there are 2 ideal spots for the rocket launchers, and the third one's not going to find much value because the 2 best spots are already taken, but there might be a perfectly good opportunity for a shock marksman rifle over this side of the board, so he goes there, so it's being a bit more efficient, so I quite like that. Fugazi, basic, Sierra John bot, not bad, especially when you've got a doctor on the list. Of course, he's got the Zulu Cobra jammer. You always want at least one of those. And I love the Bulleteer in this list because Varuna has one weakness as a sectorial, and that is not having a lot of options in terms of fast attack and actually taking the fight to their opponents. They're a lot more defensive with their jammers and Helots and Kamau. So having the Bulleteer in there, I think, is a great idea. So, back to it. Let's have a look at the game. Open this up. I decided to take a photograph of the very important draw at the start of the game. Sometimes highly classified is a mission that's just determined by what cards you get, and it's not really so much about how well the players play. Having said that, though, I would say probably most games of highly classifieds is more about, you know, your performance on the table and how you adapt and your list preparation and things like that. So what are we going to be dealing with? You can see at the top of the page I've made a chart. So the L stands for me. My real name, first initial is an L, and my opponent, his first name starts with an I. So my points are going on the left, his going on the right. We have follow-up, telemetry, net undermine, and mapping, and then I've put a B down the bottom for the bonus objective, which we're going to record. So mapping means you've got to get a forward observer or hacker into base contact with a scenery building or scenery item placed entirely inside the enemy's deployment zone, and then spend a short skill succeeded a whip check. If you guys haven't noticed, we're doing the hard ones. This is the red deck. This is the hard classifieds that we've got to do. Net undermine is where you have a veteran or elite troop, so there are very few models that can actually do it, or a trooper possessing the chain of command special skill, and you've got to do a whip check inside the enemy's deployment zone. So you've got to get over there, and there may not necessarily be that many models to choose from that are going to be able to get there quickly. Follow-up. You've got to basically do a short skill within range of the HVT. It's -3 if you can't see the HVT, and you've got to be medium or heavy infantry, so another difficult one. Telemetry is a classic, easy one to complete, but with this one you've got to do 2 checks against the enemy HVT and 2 against your one, so they've changed it to make it a lot harder. So if your HVT is on one side of the board and theirs is on the other, and there's a lot of terrain in between that, that's quite annoying. So the table, this is what we've set up. Some pretty long fire lanes, but the important ones are being cut off by terrain. You'll see a bit more of that as the bat rep commences. So deployment zones here and here. We're going to have Varuna this side and Imperial Service on this side. My opponent has won the dice roll and has opted to go first, which I feel is a great choice for this mission because going first gives you the chance to eliminate your opponent's models that they need to get the classifieds done. It gives you a chance to complete your classifieds before your key models are eliminated, and that is a big momentum shift if you can get that working. And there's little to lose by not having the last turn as well. Okay, so taking a quick hidden deployment verification photo of my ninja on the left-hand flank. His plan is to be able to sort of sneak past the Helots and so on, and try and complete the objective where you've got to get a hacker into their deployment zone and pass a whip check or something like that. So that's the plan there. Alright, so let's talk about it. So my deployment, I've got the Cyan Warrior on the right-hand side in the link team with the Haris dude and the forward observer. In fact, I think this is the Haris dude and this is the forward observer in the middle. Free range Quangxi, not involved in the link team there. I got a control device guy over here. I'm choosing to withhold the Sophitect as my reserve trooper just because the Sophitect is really important for reviving the Cyan Warrior, so his positioning is quite a big deal, and also because I might be relying on the Sophitect to do some work. I probably should have reconsidered that though, because given the objective cards we actually drew, the Sophitect might not actually be doing that much because it's more going to be about the forward observers and hackers and so forth. Anyway, we'll see. So a bit more on my deployment. I've just shown you an image of what's happening on this side, so we know what's going on down there. Let's talk about the rest of the table. So there's my HVT there, very important, but at least it's blocked off from some lines of sight from his deployment zone. The Canran is deployed there, so you got 1, 2, and 3. Notably, this guy here is the real one. So the actual real model really represents a Canran, and these little mine markers actually represent mad traps. There's one on top of the building and one on the bottom floor. Okay, so another free-range Quangshi down here. There is a link team right here. So the link team involves, if I move this, there's a 1 Quangshi here, 2 Quangshi, 3 Quangshi, 4 Quangshi, and the control device in the corner. And this camera marker here is Major Luna. Note that I didn't talk about Major Luna earlier, I forgot. So Major Luna, she has been buffed in the recent changes with marksmanship level X. It's a bit better now. Also, with this particular scenario, having a sniper, slow the opponent down can be a good idea, even if she just gets killed by an HMG, because if you deny them enough orders and they don't complete their classifieds, that's a huge swing. If you manage to shoot an unwitting, forward observer or something, that's even better. She can be revived by the Sophitect, and sometimes enemies won't discover her before she needs to be shot, so that's pretty good speed bump right there. So there's quite a few reasons why you might actually want to consider her. I don't normally take her, but I'm giving her a go this game. Okay, so there's the closer look at the link team on the left and the Canran on the middle, and then on the extreme left-hand side, we've got a couple more of these free-range Quangshi who don't really belong to any particular team. Now, on the other side, we've got Varuna. So this corner here I'm looking at is the, from my opponent's facing is the right-hand side of his table edge. So you've got a Helot here, who incidentally actually has the marksman rifle. This one has the light rocket launcher. There's a flashpole spot over here, bullet here in the mid-back, and there's a Pelbot attached to, I believe, an engineer or something, or a doctor on the other side. And the link team's going to be in this building, but we'll take a closer photo of that in a moment. Okay, so just another look for what's behind. So you got the bullet here right at the back. A couple of Helots actually. So this is showing that there's a Helot there, and there's one further on this side. This model here though is the guy with the jammer, I think, or it might be that guy. Can't quite remember. The list has been redacted. And the link team on the left, which we'll talk about in a second. So the notorious link team. So one of the most powerful games at the moment, the powerful models in the game at the moment, get your words together, is the Kamau MSV2 Sniper. He's backed up by the hacker, of course, probably Lieutenant here. There's a forward observer down here, I believe. There's a doctor helping out this side. And then, of course, you've got the War Corps, you've got Patsy, you've got the other Kamau, the engineer who are going to form a Haris team, the Triangle, the Golden Triangle. And the reason why they're not deployed particularly safely is just that he's got first turn and he's planning on moving out with them. Simple as that. Okay. Alright, so his other side, he's got his HVT right around this corner, which is good for me because that's right next to the Cien Warrior. So I might be able to get some work done on his HVT pretty early. Okay, so the game begins. I spent a command token to reduce his first order pull by 2. Puts assisted fire on his Sierra drone bot with HMG, who then moves out to get some work done. These models here cannot be seen by the HMG, but I'm just remembering to place my Sophitect as a reserve trooper, so that's going down right next to the Cien Warrior, and the Yud bot, Pelbot, is going next to Major Luna. So if the Cien or Major Luna die and remain unconscious, I might be able to get them back. Okay, so the drone bot comes up over here. And, it's in range of, what happens? It's in range of a Quangshi right at the back over here. But unfortunately for the bot, he's at just slightly at long range. So this is like one corner of the table to the other, and he doesn't quite get the 32 inches, and that means he's hitting on 8s on 4 dice, and the Quangshi is dodging on like a 12. And luckily, the Quangshi does manage to survive by dodging enough of the bullets and maybe tanking 1 armor save, and that is allowing it to pull back behind cover with a failed guts check, as you can see from this image right here. So way off in the distance where the dice is sitting, there is a drone bot out of focus from the camera, but of course this guy is now ducked behind the corner where he'll be safe. Elsewhere, a Helot is moving up the flank towards the position of the ninja, planning on setting up shop with its marksman rifle. Okay, so now we have a move out. You've got the bot over here, which realized that it couldn't really deal with Major Luna very effectively at long range, and having to discover her and everything. So pulling back behind the corner. We do have the Haris over here who are probably going to move out in a minute, but I think what was really happening in this image, excuse me, excuse me, alright, so what was really happening in this image was that there was a coordinated order moving the HMG TR bot back, but also moving out with some of these guys, I believe like the Zulu Cobra, or whatever the guy with the jammer is called, and just repositioning a few other things. I think I remember that happening. Okay, so here we go. Orc Trooper, named Patsy, along with an engineer, and a Kamau with HMG are moving out in their Haris team. As they move towards the middle of the board, they realize that there is a line from Major Luna, and it has to be Major Luna because there are no other models you can take in ISS that have regular camo. And she's cutting this line across here now. He wants to come over to my side of the board, but he's going to have to cross the path of the viral sniper, and that is not ideal. If there was no Major Luna there, he could probably come right over to my deployment zone and actually get some seriously bad work done in terms of bad for my army. So what happens here is that he tries to move the HMG in first with the first short skill and go for, I believe, no, he moves just next to the line without crossing it, and then spends a brand new order moving past. And this is what I mean by slowing him down. Like, he's having to stop short rather than using more short skills to get further up the board, and then he's got to spend another move and potentially discover, and so on and so forth. So he moves up and goes for, I believe, so he moves up, and because Major Luna doesn't declare a reaction, he could have a free discover, but he decides to use the second shot skill to keep moving anyway, because he needs to be able to get a move on. So they move around here, and then what's able to happen next is that he's able to go for a discover shoot, and I'm able to use Luna's position over here to sacrifice her. And what I mean by sacrificing her is I'm able to actually fire a shot down to where Patsy's sitting. So just to be technical about it, in the previous order, they've all moved over into line of sight of Luna. Well, the Kamau has, they haven't. Luna has given up her arrow, choosing not to use it, so they've all continued moving. And the Kamau specifically has moved into cover, so that when the Kamau guns it down, he's going to have cover. And Patsy hasn't quite made it to cover, so Luna can still see in the next order Kamau in cover and Patsy not in cover, and maybe the engineer as well. But what he's able to do now is he's able to put the link leader on the Kamau, declare a discover shoot, which will be very likely to kill me. It'll be a risk not to declare an arrow at this point. So I decided to take my free shot at Patsy. Originally I declared the machinist, but my opponent said, oh, actually I've got mimetism, so can I take that back? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to shoot at Patsy instead. So the free shot against Patsy means that Patsy's much less likely to win or survive, any lost face-to-face rolls later if she's only on one wound. If she fails both BTS checks, she's going to die. And that's going to lose him a very important forward observer in my territory, which is going to be really good for completing classifieds. If I fire back at the Kamau, I'm very likely to lose against the Kamau because he's got 5 dice and MSV1 and everything. And if I shoot at the engineer, the chance of me just flat out missing is quite significant. So it was against Patsy. And what ended up happening is, of course, the Kamau predictably blows away Luna and just kills her. And Patsy takes a single wound and doesn't die. So I feel it was worth it. Could have been a worse outcome, could have been a better one. I could have just whiffed completely, but the game continues. So what they do next is they all climb to the top of the building because they're planning on setting up shop there. They know they don't have enough orders to really do everything they want to this turn. And this is also going to put them in my territory conveniently for me to counterattack and kill them. However, this mission is not really about killing enemy models as much as it is getting the classifieds done. If you leave the classifieds too late, because the classifieds are so difficult, like it's the red version, it's the red deck, you could really be in trouble. So this is the point in the game where my opponent reveals that he's actually got the Sabotage classified as his secret classified. So there's 4 communal ones, and both players have a secret one they're trying to complete, and his one is Sabotage, but it's the difficult version of Sabotage. So he's got to blow up 2 buildings, and sabotaging, I believe, requires a short skill to set the charges and a short skill to detonate them. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's how it works, so it does take a while. So here he comes, sabotaging, eventually getting this building, not actually in this particular turn, but he does eventually get it, so we're just displaying what he was going for there. So now, what he can do is he can bring his Kamau to the top of this building, which conveniently oversees quite a lot of my deployment. So you can actually see this Celestial Guard here, free range Quan Chi in the back, maybe not quite in the perspective of the photos, not very good, but I believe the Canren is blocked off by that wall. So yeah, it's not great. Also, Luna was unconscious, but now we can see Luna's corpse, and if he does shoot at it, I can't revive her, and I really was hoping to revive her, but what the Kamau does manage to do eventually is shoot her, and the Celestial Guard rolls a really good hit on his smoke grenade to special dodge, and avoids the Kamau in that regard. So at least a little bit of defense going on there. And then they're moving up to the top of the building to set up shop and go prone and try and survive for a turn. So that brings us to Imperial Service turn 1. And we've got Quan Chi's moving out now into line of sight of the Helot. I could have spent orders to restrain the Quan Chi, but by moving the Quan Chi out here, the Helot then reveals, and as we know, there's a ninja in hidden employment here, in like range to just hit it in close combat. So I actually want the Helot to shoot me here. The Quan Chi unfortunately doesn't survive against the shock marksman rifle, unfortunately. So now it's business time. So Xian Warrior moving out with the Haris team and the 2 Zanying, and we've got some serious work to do. So the first order of the day is to complete my my telemetry. So this is a forward observer here, and my HVT is over here, and his HVT is conveniently on that side of the board down there. So I'm able to spend some orders actually focusing the forward observations on both HVTs, which is enough for me to quickly capture them and score a point. So HVT's designation is done. This one, though, was my secret one. So we've both sort of started to complete our secret objectives, just none of the actual central ones. Fortunately, though, this position does allow me to come in with the Xian Warrior and get into zone of control range of his HVT. And as you might remember, if you can bring in a medium or heavy infantry model into zone of control of their HVT, pass a whip check, it's natural whip if you can see it. That's a big deal. Problem, though, is that he's got arrows set up over here and over here and over here, and don't forget there's a Kamau. So one thing that we're going to be needing to do is set up some smoke first. That's quite important, otherwise I actually come into range of like war cores and things like that. Let me just check something real quick. So what actually happens, as far as I remember, is that the Xian Warrior comes to a point where he can only really get line of sight up through the roof to the Kamau, and is able to somehow avoid the rest of his models. And that's quite significant, because if he comes up that far on the board, he will deny the Kamau from getting cover. So it will then be 17s on 4 dice versus 16s on 2 dice. And finally, the Kamau is actually in a really bad spot. If, however, the Kamau just crits me and kills me, well, that's the Lieutenant dead and game is probably over. Luckily, though, the Kamau does, in fact, die, so we can then move out and continue with the game plan. Bearing in mind, for this entire turn, he's got a Haris team of guys on the building right above me, and in the next turn, he's probably going to be able to inflict some serious damage, probably kill my Lieutenant. But my feeling is that if I quickly snatch up 2 to 3 of these main classifieds, well, that's the game right there. He can really only spend the rest of the game catching up, and if he's going to be spending orders killing a Xian, killing another Zanying, killing another Zanying, well, he can do that efficiently, but that's orders he's not spending on completing the classifieds, and then they're going to take a lot of time in the following turn. So my game plan really is just to, beat him to it and get the classifieds done first. Alright, so another thing we're looking at over here is just the angles where the war core is, but I also want to point out that there's a Quan Chi Link team over here who can long range smoke over down here and actually put a smoke grenade down to where the Xian Warrior actually is to give him some benefits. One other thing we're attempting here is to actually fire the forward observations into his war core. Now, this is a bit of an interesting point, because if I come around and attack the war core with the HMG, it'll make him easier to forward observe, because he'll be dead. But if I shoot him too much and he goes removed, well, that won't work either. If I put the smoke down first, then the forward observer can't even see the war core. So what I'm attempting to do here is to move the forward observer up, just to get line of sight to the war core and basically, do a face-to-face roll of my forward observations versus his flash pulse, which annoyingly didn't end up working. So I know it was close. I mean, he's hitting on 13s, I'm 14s on 2 dice or something, or 13s on 2 dice. So it was a bit risky there, and there's a pretty good chance of me failing that, but there was also a pretty good chance of me actually completing another classified there, but it was not to be. Okay, so at this point, the Celestial Guard is standing up and is indeed firing the smoke template out there to give the CN Warrior some cover. In the meantime, we've got a ninja coming out of hidden deployment and removing a Helot. The great thing about this is that even though the Helot has neurocynetics, he's at -12 to hit and will just die. So he's better off dodging, in which case the ninja slashes him even more easily. Okay, so CN Warrior is now moving out, and the purpose of the smoke template is to get him to a spot where he's within 8 inches. So there's an 8-inch, divide between these two guys, and that's going to enable him to pick up this classified here onto this objective, and then he can spend his turn just gunning down the war core and whoever else. So one other thing that happens too is that I've managed to discover, I think it's another Helot over here. So we've got HMG fire onto this Helot, which is enabled to destroy that as well. At least I think that's what ends up happening in that particular order. And as you can see with the cover of the smoke, able to fire at the war core, destroy him of course, and basically spread our guys out and prepare for the onslaught of the Harish team on the building. But again, I mean, the Harish team have got so much stuff to do that even if he wipes out my Harish, I don't really necessarily feel like I've lost the game. The one thing that does make me feel like I'm behind in this game, though, is my failure to complete that telemetry, because I had an opportunity this turn to do it, but I didn't quite get it in a number of orders. I did fail a few things, like the CN Warrior took 2 attempts to capture his HVT and so on and so forth. Anyway, Ninja now moving up, recamoing and just getting ready, because in a future turn he's going to be needed to move over here and actually complete the classified in the enemy deployment zone. So if I can keep him intact to do that, that'll be great. Okay, so Varuna turn 2. We've got the Kamau again trying to defeat various opponents, and again going up against the Celestial Guard with smoke light grenade launcher. Then we've got Patsy moving down the staircase, and we have blown up the building at this point. I don't know how they blow up a building that they're standing in, but I guess they're just sabotaging some part of it. They're blowing up, the cooling vents or the reactor or whatever it's using, the stash inside the building, but it's been sabotaged. Patsy then comes down the stairs here, narrowly avoids a mad trap, and then continues down to a point lower on the staircase. He does have a TR bot here that he remembers is still alive, and the TR bot has an attempt at destroying the CN Warrior, but does not succeed. The CN Warrior is able to back off behind cover, and quite frankly manage to tank some saves and avoid the fire here from the bot, which was quite miraculous. Bear in mind the CN Warrior can fire back with 2 shots and potentially kill it, but that didn't come through either. Okay, so Patsy has come down the stairs. She's come right down here. You've still got the Machinist and the Kamau up top. He's able to maintain coherency with them at all times and go for sabotage again on this crate here. So this building has been sabotaged and the crate's been sabotaged, and he finally completes sabotage. So I've completed my secondary objective, my bonus point, and he's got his as well. So we're 2 objective points a piece on that. Quite important. So what happens now is he's able to reposition a little bit more. He's got a what do you call this guy? A Machinist who is able to see past to one of the Holo Echoes, but selects the wrong Holo Echo to shoot, so doesn't really get much done there. The Kamau over here, taking a few more crack shots, I believe, at Guangxi, Celestial Guard, that kind of thing, managing to remove some enemy models. And then we have a situation where Patsy Garnet, or whatever her name is, comes out here and again completes one of the objectives. I believe this is the one where you have to have a veteran or elite trooper or something like that in the enemy deployment zone and pass a whip check. And apparently characters do count as that type of trooper nowadays. So that is a tick in one of the columns for the main objectives. Then we have the engineer moving around, and he's trying to gun down my Zanying with his combi rifle, and I believe after a little bit of trying, does succeed in doing so. We also have the TR bot, which is over here, again, able to just fire at the Sien Warrior, but I believe by the end of all of this, the Sien Warrior actually manages to make it out of there and actually survives. So that brings me to my turn, and I am actually not in loss of lieutenant, which was a miracle. Annoyingly, though, he has managed to get a lot done in terms of the classified, so we'll talk more about that soon. So here we go. It's Guangxi. Yeah. So let's talk about what happens here, because this is probably the most momentous moment in the game. This one was really big. So, one random Guangxi decides that Patsy Garner is the nearest model, walks out around a corner towards Patsy. Patsy responds with some sort of arrow, and the Guangxi decides to shoot his pistol, rolls a crit, and kills Patsy dead. So that means he has no forward observer on my side of the table anymore, and his link team is a duo, it's just meaningless now. Which was big, because he's lost a model, it was an important model, and he may now be stuck at only being able to complete, say, 3 classifieds rather than 4. So that was huge. Again, we have the Celestial Guard putting smoke grenades down, but the important thing is here that there's still a Kamau HMG up in this building, right? And if the Celestial Guard stands up, he's basically going to go toe-to-toe with the Kamau. Now, if he fires the combi rifle, yeah, he may win, but the point of doing this is to fire some long-range smoke grenades here. Because if I don't do that, then the Sien Warrior has to activate within line of sight of a TR bot, which is not really what he wants. So, putting the smoke down here so that I can actually avoid the TR bot for the time being, and when it does come time for the Sien Warrior to finally shoot the TR bot, he'll then have moved to cover, and he'll have the benefit of smoke, obviously, and will be much better at winning that face-to-face roll. So what we're doing here is we're firing the smoke grenade off in the distance while taking shots from the Kamau as an arrow, and this is a sacrifice of the Celestial Guard, and indeed the Celestial Guard does in fact get shot and does die, but does put the smoke down on the ground, which is really all we wanted. So this enables the Sien Warrior to move over, and trying to kill the engineer at point-blank range proves more difficult than we thought, but after 1 or 2 attempts, finally does land him, I think, by moving into close combat and chopping him up with a sword, amazingly. Sometimes I think the pistol's the best way to go. HMG can be pretty good at -3, and then another -3 for, well, no, you can see through mimetism, but it's like +3 for the pistol, or -3 for the HMG, but it's 4 dice versus 2, so I probably should look at dice calculator for this, I'm just too lazy. Alright, so with Patsy eliminated, the engineer eliminated, and the Kamau still standing, let's look at what happens next. So the Sien Warrior comes around to the corner, and once he's around the corner, goes for the shot against the TR bot. Okay, so the TR bot's over here. So the Sien Warrior is hitting on, I think, 17s? Something ridiculous, maybe 14s because of being medium range band. And the bot shooting back, you know, through smoke up against cover. But, of course, rolls a crit and the Sien Warrior dies. Because he'd taken 1 order in the previous turn, I believe. So, not really ideal. You've got the Sophitek now moving out. And the Sophitek, unfortunately, is up against a Kamau. And the problem, you guys, is that I've got to revive my lieutenant. Otherwise, I'm in lost lieutenant next turn. I've also got a Zanying over there, and the Zanying's the only remaining forward observer in my army, and I cannot win the game really unless I revive him and actually complete, you know, another classified. So this is a really bad situation. The Sophitek needs to move out, kill the Kamau on a face-to-face roll, which would be really hard, or survive his arrows using NWI and come over there and revive him. So at first I attempted to do it with just shooting, that didn't really work. I went NWI, I moved over to the Sien Warrior, failed a couple of attempts, burned through some command tokens, but the end result is that the Sophitek ends up dying due to 2 arrows from the Kamau successfully, highly annoying, but does bring the Sien Warrior back to life, which is kind of crazy. The Sien Warrior can then just stand there and make sure that I'm not immediately in Lost Lieutenant, or even go after the TR bot again. So moving to the other group's worth of orders, the Ninja moving forward stealthily. There's a bit of a chasm to cross here, so it can see through that, but the Ninja's able to move out there as it's getting discovered, continues moving, and ends the order out of line of sight, so we're in a good position. Only real problem with this, though, is that the Ninja is in next to a repeater. So what the Ninja's got to do is the Ninja has to come out of camo and red run the enemy hacker through the repeater and kill him, which is highly likely. But the bot can actually engage him as he's doing that. Or the Ninja can go directly for the classified and get hit by Brain Blast and an engage in the meantime and just have to hope that he passes the whip check. So not really ideal. So after a ton of thinking about it, I was really stumped. I was like, what's the most optimal thing to do? And I couldn't really analyze it well enough to figure it out. But I did decide to go for the classified just because, I didn't really feel comfortable risking the possibility that I would have to work more for it. With that percentage chance to get it straight away in sight, you've got to go for it. Otherwise, that could be game lost right there. So what happens is the Ninja reveals. The bot attempts to engage, fails the engage. The hacker attempts to brain blast him, doesn't quite kill the Ninja. The Ninja, thankfully, does pass the willpower check, finally getting a little bit lucky, and completes another classified. And then in the following order, I'm actually able to brain blast the Fusilier successfully, and don't really care about the bot at that point. So that was pretty cool. So the bot has been engaged, the Ninja places the bot around this side, and that actually helps to block line of sight to the Ninja in future because it's prone now, so that's awesome. Okay, so yeah. There is a picture here of a TR bot, and for the life of me, I can't remember. Can't remember why that was. What am I doing? I think this represents my opponent's third and final turn, where he is moving out with the bot to try and remove the Sien Warrior, and I think does manage to kill him by moving over there. And then what he does is he moves out with his surviving, forward observing Fusilier. It's the only thing he's got left to complete it, and he moves the Fusilier all the way over here, and then he's able to move around here, and all he has to do to win the game is just get some forward observation rolls onto my dead Zanying, and that's it. I don't have any models left which are able to complete any more of the classified, so let's just look back at them. So we've both got the 2 points for completing our bonus objectives down the bottom. I've completed mapping, which I believe was the one the Ninja completed, and follow-up, which was where the Sien Warrior got into zone of control of his HVT and passed the check. Now, my opponent completed sabotage for the bonus objective. He also got mapping because he got Patsy Garnet into my deployment zone. Or maybe that was Net Undermine, I can't quite remember. Telemetry was the one that he got at the end there, where the forward observer was able to spot me. And Net Undermine was something else that I believe Patsy completed. Let me just have a look at what these were. Okay, so your Patsy got that by coming into my deployment zone. And mapping. Okay, so he actually got his forward observer in base contact with a scenery building or scenery item in my deployment zone. So Patsy completed that one as well when she got over there. So I lose the game, and actually by a large margin, because classifieds, this mission is such that if you have more of the main ones in your opponent, you get a bonus 4. So my score is 4 total, because I've got follow-up for 1, mapping for 2, and the bonus for another 2 for 4. And my opponent's got 2 plus 3 for 5 plus 4 for having more than me for 9, so it's 9 to 4, so it's such a huge swing. But think about a few things. How would that game have gone if the objectives had been completely different? well, you got a totally different game. How would that game have gone if Major Luna had actually shot Patsy and he'd been over there with no forward observer or no model that could have completed, net undermine mapping? Would he have lost? Quite possibly. What if my ninja had been unable to do mapping? Well, that's another consequence as well. So there's a lot of variance, a lot of little variables here, and I find that highly classified is just a little bit too weighted towards the luck and variance side of things, compared to other scenarios where you play a game of Frostbite or Com Center or one of those sort of more standardized ones, where yeah, the game's still going to be, very random because it's infinity. You got, these dice rolls and these situations where luck makes a huge impact on it, but just enough of an impact on it. You don't really need any more variance than that. And then everything else is a little bit more, bit more tight. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the bat rep. I had a really good time playing this game. I don't think my list was that great. Also, if one of the cards we drew was Test Run, I didn't actually have any robots in my army at all, no remotes, so I wouldn't have actually been able to complete it. So that was a bit of an oversight on my part. But again, I don't play this mission very much because I don't like it. If I practiced a bit more often, I think I'd be able to come up with some better lists. Anyway, that'll do. See you guys again next time.